My name is Alena. I am 22 years old, and I work as a nurse. From the time I was a little girl, I dreamed of wearing the white uniform, walking into a hospital, and helping people who were suffering. I believed it was one of the most honorable professions in the world. Nurses save lives, they comfort the weak, and they bring hope to families who are lost in pain. I thought everyone respected nurses. I thought people would look at us with admiration and gratitude. But the truth that I discovered when I finally stepped into this profession was far from what I imagined. What I am going to share with you today is not only my story, but the story of countless nurses across the world whose struggles remain invisible. When I was young, I saw nurses on television standing beside doctors, smiling, caring, and looking almost like angels on earth. My mother used to tell me stories about Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp who walked through battlefields at night to save the wounded. Those stories filled my heart with inspiration. I studied hard, not only for myself, but for my mother, who worked her entire life in difficult conditions. She dreamed of seeing me in a uniform that symbolized compassion and service. When I finally completed my training and secured my first job in a big hospital, I felt a sense of pride that words cannot describe. I still remember the day I wore my uniform for the first time. My mother's eyes filled with tears, and she hugged me tightly, whispering, "Sarah, you are going to be a blessing for people. Always serve with kindness." Those words stayed with me, but I had no idea what awaited me. At first, everything felt new and exciting. I was finally doing the work I had dreamed about. I gave medicines, assisted doctors, and comforted patients. But soon, reality hit me. Nursing is not the simple, smiling picture the world sees on television. Nurses often work 12 to 14 hours without proper breaks. We run from one patient to another, from one emergency to another. Sometimes we don't even get a chance to eat. The work is physically demanding, but the hardest part of being a nurse begins when the sun goes down, when the night duty starts. The hospital at night feels like another world. The corridors are silent but heavy, the lights are dim, and the air feels cold. Sometimes even your own shadow frightens you as you walk alone with patient files or trays of medicine. The sound of machines, the occasional cries of patients, and the echo of your own footsteps become your only companions. I once thought that night duty would only mean fighting sleep and staying awake, but I was wrong. The night brings its own set of struggles, hidden from the eyes of society. During the day, the hospital is crowded with doctors, visitors, and management. But at night, families are asked to leave, fewer doctors remain on duty, and only a handful of nurses are left responsible for dozens of patients. In those lonely hours, nurses become more vulnerable than anyone realizes. Sometimes male staff members, guards, or even junior doctors try to take advantage of the silence and isolation. A nurse walking down the corridor at 2 a.m. is more exposed than people can imagine. I remember one night when a young patient called me into his room. I thought he needed water or medicine, but instead, he looked at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. When I tried to leave, he grabbed my hand. My heart pounded, and I shouted. Thankfully, another nurse nearby heard me, but even then, the administration brushed the matter aside. They told me, "Sarah, this happens sometimes. Be careful next time." That was the moment I realized how unsafe night duty really was. What hurts even more is the silence imposed on nurses. We are told to be patient, to serve humanity, to accept everything quietly. But patience does not mean tolerating disrespect or abuse. Whenever a nurse reports misconduct, people doubt her words. They say she must have misunderstood, or worse, they blame her. Maybe her uniform was not proper. Maybe she was too friendly. Maybe she smiled too much. This culture of blaming and silencing makes life unbearable. Nurses are human beings too. We feel fear, we feel humiliation, and we deserve protection. Night duties also take a heavy toll on our health. Staying awake all night, walking endlessly between patient beds, lifting people, checking machines, and giving injections slowly weakens our bodies. Many nurses suffer from back pain, migraines, or depression. Emotionally, the night is even harsher. While the world sleeps, we are awake, standing between life and death. Sometimes we are the first to hear a patient's final words. Sometimes we are the only ones holding the hand of an old man or woman whose family isn't there. Sometimes we are the ones covering a body when death takes away a life. These moments never leave us, yet in the morning, very few people notice our presence. Families thank the doctors, the hospital, the management, but they forget the nurse who stayed awake all night. Outside the hospital, life is not kinder. In many societies, nurses are judged unfairly. Some people think we are only assistants to doctors, as if our work has no value. Others spread cruel rumors, saying that nurses who work at night cannot be good girls. This is the most painful part of our profession. We sacrifice our health, our safety, and sometimes even our family lives, yet society still questions our dignity. People forget that without nurses, hospitals would collapse in a single day. There was one night that broke me completely. I was on duty in the emergency ward when a young boy of 10 was brought in after a road accident. His condition was critical. I did everything I could, but he did not survive. His mother collapsed on the floor, screaming in grief. I held her hand, but I could not take away her pain. That night I went home and cried for hours. I questioned why I had chosen this profession. I wondered why people disrespect us when we give so much of ourselves. I even thought about leaving the job, but then I remembered my mother's words, "Always serve with kindness." That thought gave me the strength to continue. After years of working as a nurse, I now see the truth more clearly. Nurses are not assistants. We are the backbone of healthcare. We are not weak. We fight battles every single night that most people will never see. Nurses deserve respect, safety, and appreciation. The hidden life of a nurse is not just about giving medicines or checking blood pressure. It is about carrying emotional burdens, facing dangers, and still standing strong for the sake of others. So if you are listening to my story, I want you to remember one thing. Nurses are not objects. We are not here to be judged, used, or disrespected. We are here to heal, to comfort, and to save lives. The next time you meet a nurse, say thank you. Because behind every successful doctor, there is a nurse's hard work. Behind every patient's recovery, there is a nurse's care. And behind every smile of relief, there is a nurse's silent sacrifice. This was my story, the story of the hidden night duties of nurses, a story of pain and fear, but also of strength, resilience, and humanity. One day, I hope the world will see nurses not as shadows in hospital corridors, but as real heroes who fight silent battles every night. Until then, I will keep serving, I will keep standing, and I will keep reminding the world that without nurses, healthcare has no soul. Every night, duty teaches me something new about life, about pain, and about humanity. Sometimes, in those long hours of silence, I wonder how many people truly understand what nurses go through. Society often sees only the surface, the white uniform, the polite smile, the neat appearance. But behind that uniform is a human being who is carrying invisible weights. There are nights when my body aches so much that I can hardly stand, but I still walk from one bed to another because someone needs me. There are nights when my heart feels heavy from the sorrow I witness, but I still manage a smile because a patient needs hope. And there are nights when I fight fear, loneliness, and exhaustion at the same time, yet I cannot show it because a nurse is expected to be strong. Many people think nurses only follow doctors' orders, but the reality is different. At night, when doctors are not always present, it is the nurse who makes decisions, who notices the changes in a patient's breathing, who rushes to save a life before it is too late. I remember one night in the ICU when an elderly man's oxygen level suddenly dropped. There was no doctor nearby. It was me who responded first, me who gave him immediate support, and me who stabilized him until the doctor arrived. Later, the family thanked the doctor for saving their father. The doctor accepted the praise politely, but deep inside, I knew that if I hadn't acted in those critical seconds, the man would not have survived the night. This is the reality. Nurses are often invisible heroes whose efforts remain unrecognized. Night duty also affects our personal lives in ways most people do not realize. While others sleep peacefully, we sacrifice our nights. When the sun rises and the world wakes up fresh, we are returning home with tired eyes and heavy feet. I have responsibilities. People outside may never see this hidden cost, but nurses live it every single day. Still, despite all these struggles, there are moments that remind me why I chose this path. Sometimes, a patient smiles at me with gratitude. Sometimes a family thanks me sincerely, not just the doctors. This is my story, but it is also the story of millions of nurses across the globe. A story of hidden pain, invisible strength, and unshakable humanity. And I hope that one day, the world will not just see us as shadows in hospital corridors, but as real heroes who carry the weight of life and death on their shoulders every single night.